Yo, 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 welcome to the Do You Recall podcast, the podcast that says some of the movies back in the day got you through your day. And on today's podcast, I had to bring back the one and only Joe Kills, keeping it real. What up, Joe Kills?
Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
Oh, you know, you're always welcome here on the Do You Recall podcast, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Man, it's been a very trying year, obviously.
Yes, it has.
But the one thing that's been getting me by has been Cobra Kai.
Oh, man.
Cobra Kai has to be one of the best shows on streaming services.
Well, I'm going to have to say thank you.
Why?
Because I started watching it, I just was like, nah, I ain't interested. And you told me to give it a chance.
Yeah, I said give it a chance.
So I gave it a chance, and I binge watched all 3 seasons.
And?
I'm waiting for season 4.
Somebody asked me this year, like, hey, what are you going to do on New Year's night? I said, binge watch Cobra Kai. And that's exactly what I did. I binge watched the entire last season. Literally, all episodes. I've been and watched the hell out of it. Like, literally started at midnight, ended at, like, I don't know what in the AM, but I literally finished the entire thing. It was such an amazing movie. And the reason why I brought that up, because today's Do You Recall moment really comes from the entire The Karate Kid franchise, starting from the first one from 1984 to part 2 to part 3, and we're not going to mention, the next Karate Kid. But
I mean, we could, because what this episode is about is the holes.
The holes. And that's exactly why. So the Do You Recall moments are the holes that were in all the Karate Kid movies that now Cobra Kai is really shining a light on. And the one thing that was always an ongoing hole to me was, do you recall that Danny could never find love? Like, he could never keep a love interest. Like, it was always something happened with the love interest. Like, I mean, obviously his first girlfriend from the first movie, Allison, they're together throughout their whole entire movie for the most part. Well, mostly through the whole entire movie. The best parts. The best parts. They were pretty much together. Okay. And then the second movie starts off with him coming back from looks like prom.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And she falls in love with a guy from UCLA.
Which is funny because she goes to prom, wrecks his car.
Yeah.
And then he finds out she's in love with a guy at UCLA when she hasn't even gone there yet.
And we're like, when did this happen? When did this happen? So he doesn't find love, and in part 2, that's when they go back to Mr. Miyagi's hometown, Okinawa, and he has a love interest there who he's really like they really build that moment with the whole tea and all that stuff. You know what I mean?
I'd have stayed in Okinawa.
Yeah, thank you. You had nothing. I mean, you want to go to college. He wanted to go to college.
There's no college in Okinawa?
I mean, apparently not, because she didn't want to go to college in Okinawa. She wanted to go to some other school for dancing,
Well, they may not have. Well, because she wanted to be a ballet dancer.
Yeah, that's true.
They may not have had a ballet school in Okinawa.
Yeah.
But they got schools in Okinawa.
This is true.
And in all actuality, to me, if she's going to say Chicago, NYU, those are the ballets, why am I not going with her?
This is true. So I don't know if it's necessarily a whole, because in the part 3, they do mention that, she went off to pretty much pursue her dream. He came back to the States to go to college. And
still a hole, because you didn't know what happened to her.
We don't know what happened to her. Like, we don't know what happened. I feel like they built it up so much in part 2.
They'd have kept connected.
And they should have kept it connected somehow, some way. And then my thing like, Mr. Miyagi's love interest in part 2, Kamiko.
Yes.
We don't hear from her in part 3, don't we? I don't think so, right? So what happened to Kamiko? Like, she could have came back with Mr. Miyagi. Like, why? They loved each other.
Yeah, she could have.
And Soto was cool with him now. Like, everything was good. Like, I mean, the house in Okinawa, I feel like they stayed at his dad's house for the most part. His home.
That was his home.
That was his home. So I'm thinking to myself, why didn't she just come back with Mr. Miyagi? Why didn't we see that? Why couldn't Mr. Miyagi have love? Why couldn't it? That would have been so cool to see her come back introduce her to the culture and all that. Like, give him a love interest.
Well,
why not?
That would, but see, that would have made sense since it was her niece or something like that. Or
I believe so.
Or not, something she was related to.
Yeah.
If she's leaving, you're leaving her alone.
Exactly.
You know, I mean, it makes sense.
I don't get it. I don't get why we did not see that. Maybe that is really the do you recall moment is we don't know what happened to Kimiko. Like we don't know what happened. And she's not in any new season of Cobra Kai.
Well,
or did they mention her?
I think they mentioned. I think they mentioned her, but they don't. But keep in mind, Miyagi's passed away.
Yes, that's true.
And I think when they mentioned her, I think she's passed away too.
Okay, that makes sense. And
but that's I think they only did that to close that chapter.
But then again, also in part 2, is it part 2 or part 1 where Mr. Miyagi gets drunk?
That was part 1.
That's part 1, and he's like really like looking at these old photos, and it's not Kimiko, it's somebody else.
No, it's his actual. It's the woman he married.
It's the woman he married
and had a son with.
Yeah,
and both of them died.
There you go. So they both die, and then now he has this other, like, I don't know what the time frame was between the marriage. Was this Kimiko, was she a childhood friend but didn't get married? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, that don't make no sense either.
My question is, they had the tea ceremony.
They did have the tea ceremony.
They had 2 of them. Because remember, they said they had one before he left.
Yes.
And then they had one after he came back. So, I mean, like you said, at that point, you've professed your love twice.
Word.
And I understand, people. I understand the old saying, if you love something, let it go. If it comes back to you, it's meant to be.
Word.
Well, then why the hell do you come back to America? Because you let it go. And you came back to it.
Let it go. Let it go. I'm joking. But no, but that's serious. And so the do you call is really Kimiko. Now we think about it, it's really Kimiko and the love interest that Mr. Miyagi should have had in part 2 and part 3.
Yes.
But going back to Danny.
Well, he had it in 2.
He did have it in 2.
He just didn't have it in 3.
He didn't have it in 3. But going back to Danny, and then Danny has another, not a love interest per se in part 3.
They look like they were trying to bloom that into
They were trying to bloom it into, but she's like, nah, I have another boyfriend. We're just friend kind of deals. I'm like, he always has some type of female bestie, you know, for the seem like. It's just everybody is a female bestie to him. Like, there's not a real
because the first 2 were love connections. I will say that.
No. The first 2 were love connections. I'm saying, like,
then it's like,
the part 3 was like, can he finally find something? Like, can he finally?
I think they did it because they're like, we're going to stop playing with this boy's emotions and just give him a bestie.
That's true. And then there he goes. And that was necessarily true. And so we don't see that on, obviously, in the new seasons of Cobra Kai. You know, Danny's grown up. He's married. He has a beautiful wife. We don't know where this woman came from at all. But he does run into his old ex. I'm sorry, these are spoiler alerts if you haven't seen Cobra Kai. If you haven't seen Cobra Kai, kill yourself.
And this is season 3.
This is season 3, where you see actually the coming back of the first flame, and
see that's where I have the issue.
Okay,
they went and they brought back. I can't remember her name. The Asian girl,
Kimiko.
Okay, they brought back Kimiko.
No, Kimiko, but I can't remember her name. Go ahead, but
you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And you folks know what I'm talking about if you saw The Karate Kid too. So they brought her back.
Yes.
Then in the process of bringing her back, they brought back Allison also.
Yes.
What happened to the third chick? They were friends.
Yeah.
Didn't they keep in touch? I keep in touch with my old friends.
I know you guys are like, once again, you guys are listening or looking like, why does it matter? I'm just saying there's holes.
My thing is this. You're right, Carl. People are looking at this going, what the fuck are they talking about? Why does this matter to them? Because it matters because there's no consistency.
Word. It's about consistency.
If you leave plot holes, fill them eventually. And that's why I'm glad. And that's the other thing about Cobra Kai that kept me interested after you told me to watch it, was because they started filling in the holes.
And that's why the do you recall moments in the movies, all the Karate Kids, it paid off because Cobra Kai literally filled in almost every single hole that you can almost think of when it came to
The Karate Kid.
The Karate Kid. I mean, you know, and added nuances to it, which was really cool that I thought, because when I'm thinking about, like, if Mr. Miyagi knows this, you know, you know, he's always about defense. You never know about offense. You never know. He teaches how to strike and strike hard and all this stuff.
He's a counter.
Yeah.
Miyagi's whole thing is counter.
Yeah.
If I can't just defend it and keep away from you, counter it. Where everybody else's karate is, like you said, like the Cobra Kai thing.
Hit hard, strike hard, yeah.
Strike fast.
Strike fast. There you go. But I mean, and also in the Karate Kid movies, we see
what?
Where's the hole? The hole in Karate Kid is I'm feeling for I'm sorry, I just had a blank right now. I'm sorry. It'll come
Johnny
back
Lawrence?
to me. Was it
Mr. Lawrence?
Well, yeah, we see where like obviously like that was the whole plot, like what happened to Johnny after part 1, and then going into part 2, we see him in the beginning, a little bit of part 2.
Well, it's just a replay.
It's a replay from what happened in part 1. You know what I mean? It looked like they had extra film and they just put it in part 2.
Exactly. Because after that, you don't hear nothing about Johnny.
And you don't hear nothing about Johnny. But Cobra Kai fills that void, and now
explains where he went.
Explains where he went, and that part was cool. I really did enjoy seeing it almost from a Johnny perspective. And that's why Cobra Kai is doing so well. I love the fact that they called it Cobra Kai and not like Karate Kid, the series. Yeah, exactly. I love the fact that they call it Cobra Kai. It's all about branding. The branding was right. The marketing right. It's the right amount of time. They're only like 24-minute long episodes.
Yeah.
So the timing is just amazing.
Well, the fact that, like you said, it's almost, it starts out, because as the seasons go on, it's actually 50-50 to me. But it starts out with, hold on, lost my train of thought.
Yeah, lost your train of thought.
But it starts out, it's called Cobra Kai because, to me, it starts out from Johnny's perspective.
It kind of does. I guess you see that. Yeah.
You know, it's what happened to Johnny Lawrence. So almost the whole first season is basically what happened to Johnny Lawrence.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why I'm thinking Cobra Kai was, like you said, was a perfect name because it's taken place from a Cobra Kai's standpoint.
True.
And on top of that, it fills in the void of, as the season goes on,
I understand what you, it's okay. You'll come back to it.
The Karate Kid's Ralph Macchio's character.
Yeah.
Danny LaRusso. In his training, he's like, you guys can't, he's learned as he's gotten older from what Mr. Miyagi had taught him. You cannot keep an enemy as an enemy. The best way to beat an enemy is to make him an ally. Mm. And when one of the scenes in the series, they're talking about, oh, you can't trust Cobra Kai. And he was like, well, you know what? At one point, I was a Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
You know, so it kind of showed that this is why the show is named that, because it's taking place. One, it's starting out from a Cobra Kai's perspective.
Yeah.
And then it's going, Cobra Kai's aren't all bad.
Yeah. And another do you recall moment comes from the Karate Kid 3 movie. Uh-oh. And that is what happened to the business venture of Terry Silver.
Not the Silver Man.
Terry Silver, if you remember part 3, is the one with the ponytail. Okay, he's the one with the ponytail, and he's the one that helps Cobra Kai get back on their feet, or try to get back on their feet. And I'm thinking to myself, when he's like, "We're gonna open Cobra Kai business all around here. We're gonna teach all kind of Cobra Kai. This and that, and then nothing. Like then nothing. Obviously, there was not a 4th movie. Well, there was a 4th movie, but it was called The Next Karate Kid, and it starred a woman. And yeah, that's a whole different kind of movie to me. But
well, see, you're wondering what happened to Terry Silver.
Yeah,
I'm wondering what happened to Mike Barnes.
Yeah,
the guy they hired to beat up Daniel LaRusso.
This is true, and it makes me feel like, are we gonna? I know we're gonna see Terry Silver in the next Cobra Kai series. I don't know if this. I hope it's not. I hope this is the last season, because it's.
You don't want to.
It's on. Well, no, it's. I don't want to burn it out, but it's on track. It's like on track with the movies, because it's really introducing a lot of people. Because now we saw Kamiko in this last one,
and we saw what's his name, the nephew.
Yeah,
Soto's nephew.
Yeah.
We also saw since season 2 we got John Reese back.
Yeah,
and he's now taking over Cobra Kai.
Exactly.
So, you know, we got the people from part 1 and part 2.
But I don't know if you caught it, but then he does talk about, they drop hints in this last season of Cobra Kai about Terry Silver. So I'm pretty sure we're going to see him somewhere down the line.
Well,
I don't even know if he's still alive, tell you the truth.
Like I said, I'm wondering what happened to Mike Barnes, to be honest. Because, you know, Mike Barnes was, he was, to me, he was the Cobra Kai. He was the Cobra Kai type.
Okay. Yeah.
He made Johnny look like a pussy.
He did.
You know, he made Johnny look like the rest of Johnny's friends when Johnny was the man at Cobra Kai. And Johnny wasn't even there, and he made him look bad.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'd like to know what happened to Mike Barnes.
Yeah, that's true. So these are some do you recall moments, but we just had to really touch on the Cobra Kai, especially the Karate Kid franchise, because Cobra Kai is a great show. It is really good show. You know, you give it some time and it really does develop, and it takes you back into the nostalgia of the past with a great taste of the future, which is really good to me. And do you recall Karate Kid? All the love interests in the movie, from Danny to Mr. Miyagi, just couldn't find it. We just couldn't. And then what happened to Danny's mom? Like, we don't see her after part one.
She went back to New Jersey.
Oh, she does.
Yeah, she takes the job in San Jose, I think, San Jose or Sacramento.
Oh, that's true. In part two, they did explain that to us in the beginning.
And then
I forgot about that.
And then they explain in Cobra Kai what happens to her when they come back and she ain't here. She goes back to New Jersey, and that's how in Cobra Kai you get his cousin working with him at the car dealership.
Got it.
And then the mom moves back.
Here we go, man.
Once again, Cobra Kai filling in the holes.
And that's great. And that's what you need to do. Cobra Kai, I mean, they did it right. The writers for Cobra Kai did it right. They said, look, all we got to do to make a good series is fill in the holes. People are going to be like, do you remember that? Like, yeah, I remember that. I remember this person. And literally the whole entire series is a do you recall moment. Like,
it is. It really is.
It literally is a do you recall moment. So that's why it's on the show. I ain't going to lie to you.
Do you recall what happened to this character? Do you recall what happened when this character met this character?
And now we have that. That's why my show is great.
I'll agree with that.
It's taking you. Literally, you got to think about this, because we might get some of that. On previous shows, we talked about other movies, we talked about other situations that happen, and you never know. Like, we might get stuff like that. We talked about game shows from the past, you know, that were really cool growing up in the 80s and 90s, or especially in the 90s. And we never know. We might get more game shows like that. Like, look at shows like Wipeout. Like, Wipeout is like almost the same thing as like American Gladiators. You know what I mean? Yeah. Almost the same thing. Like, very playful. You know what I mean? Wipeout's very more playful, but I'm saying, like, I
got one for you.
What?
Tag.
Oh, the movie?
No.
Or the actual Tag?
The game. Game show Tag. There's a game show called Tag.
Yeah. And
it's basically American Gladiators, but, oh, no, not Tag. It's, what's it called? The show The Rock was doing.
Titan.
That's basically Tag with American Gladiators thrown into it.
Yeah, that's true. That's very much
true. There is a game show. I don't know if it's on regular TV or not, but it's called Tag, and it's two teams, and that you're playing the game of tag.
Wow, I didn't even know that shit existed.
I mean, you know, once again, do you recall from when you were a kid?
Wow, there it is. Once again, man, thank you for coming on the podcast,
no problem,
Mr.
Sir.
Joe Keels.
Thank you for having me.
Keeping it real, man. I've been CJ. This has been the Do You Recall podcast. First thing you need to do right now is make sure you click the subscribe button. All right. And then hit that notification bell to get all the new updates on our podcast and all the future podcasts. And you'll definitely be seeing Kills again, man, around here. So thank you once again. This has been the Do You Recall podcast. We be out.
Peace.